you have another book called The Late Great USA, and it deals with an issue that I believe that a lot of our Kansas listeners, including myself, are not as briefed and educated upon, and it kind of comes down to this security and prosperity partnership. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about this?
Well, the Late Great USA, in the subtitle is The Coming Merger with Mexico and Canada.
Yes.
That book came out of my work on the Minutemen. I mean, as I worked with Jim Gilchrist down on the border and co-authored the Minutemen, I kept asking the question, why is this happening? Because in political analysis, you assume that wide open borders or anything else that's happening are happening for a reason. It isn't just that President Bush forgot to close the borders. It's intentionally kept open. At least you have to proceed that way to try to analyze it so you understand what's going on. When I came across the Security and Prosperity Partnership in North America, which had been declared at a summit meeting with Vincenti Fox, it was on March 23, 2005, and in a summit meeting with Fox and with Canada's Prime Minister at that time, Paul Martin, and the three leaders came out at the end of the summit meeting and they held a press conference, and they simply declared that we were in the Security and Prosperity Partnership in North America. There was nothing brought to Congress. There was no law, no treaty, just a press conference.
Like a proclamation?
Proclamation. And I started investigating, and I said, okay, this is likely the reason why the borders are being kept wide open. And I saw that there was a website created right after the March 23rd meeting in Waco, Texas. It's spp.gov. It's Security and Prosperity Partnership's website in the Department of Commerce. sampeterpaul.gov. It's a government website. And if you look at it, you'll see and study it. And again, studying so many of these government websites, you've got to spend time with them. They're boring.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to really read the details and documents. If you read things like the 2005 and 2006 report to the leaders on the website, spp.gov, you'll see that we created 20 working groups, which are bureaucratic structures where our bureaucrats, working together with the bureaucrats in Mexico and Canada, have been meeting on a regular basis. And what they've been doing is that they say, integrating and harmonizing our rules and regulations and our administrative law. Well, integrating and harmonizing means changing.
Mm-hmm.
And as the working groups you say, well, what are they trying to change? Well, you see they're defining, basically open borders, that we're going to have trusted traders and trusted travelers of North America. There's been a plan to issue biometric border pass cards to Mexicans who want to come into the United States. I'm sure that got slowed down when the comprehensive immigration reform did not get passed twice, the Kennedy and McCain bill, which was called a shamnesty bill, the
right.
pathway to citizenship and
right.
the like. But what did get opened in the SPP working groups were these fast lanes on the border with Mexico, especially, where Mexican trucks are now coming across the border in this Department of Transportation Mexican Truck Demonstration Project in 15-second intervals. They have identified by SPP their trusted traders. They've got electronic manifests of their cargo. They've got electronic driver's license identification. They just show up on the computer screens, and they're waved through customs and border security, despite the fact that the majority of drugs getting into the United States are still getting in by truck.
Right. So these would be vehicles that just really bypass any kind of inspection?
Right. I mean, they're subject to inspection, but the whole purpose of SPP is to open the borders, and they're trusted travelers and trusted traders, so they're supposed to get in, as like an easy pass being used on a interstate. They're not supposed to slow you down.
Does this tie in to what we've heard about in this term called the superhighway?
Well, it does. I mean, see, the real purpose here, when you look at the grand plan it's a world trade globalist grand plan. The idea that we want to have Mexican trucks coming into the United States is only because the Mexican trucks are cheaper. Now, the whole purpose is to open up these ports down in Mexico, Lazaro Cardenas and Manzanilla. They're two major ports on the Pacific, deep water ports. We're getting millions of containers from China as we're sending our manufacturing to China. And, China has the unfair advantage of using still slave labor to produce the goods. But for the multinational corporations deciding to offshore, outsource their manufacturing, it makes no sense to send the manufacturing to China if it still costs an arm and a leg to get these goods back into the United States. So the entire world trade design, which you can read about, it's again I don't make any of this up. It's all in the economics literature. It's being taught to our kids in economic classes in schools at the master and PhD level. I mean, this is all what the supply economics is all about. That the whole idea is you're supposed to get the parts together from wherever they come in the world, where needed, at the right time, at the right place. And so, in come all of the goods from China through these container ships. They're intermodal, which means the containers don't have to be unloaded or repacked. A crane in Shanghai puts the container on a giant container ship, and instead of going to Los Angeles or Long Beach, where longshoremen who are U.S. union workers and very expensive unload the containers, they're unloaded by Mexican dock workers in Lazaro Cardenas and Manzanilla. And they're put on Mexican trucks and Mexican trains and brought across the border into the heartland of the United States, where they're brought to market or to assembly. Now, this intermodal system with millions of containers is, the Federal Highway Administration has been telling the states all along Interstate 35, which is our main artery from Texas to Canada, that the Interstate 35 infrastructure is not going to support the increase in trucks. I think this bridge collapse in Minneapolis, which was 35N, was largely because of the volume of truck traffic that's been pushed onto that highway, to that artery, right through the center of Minneapolis, because with the trucks coming down from Canada, that's another influx of trucks. Canada's opening up their ports over on Vancouver.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Jerry Corsi, who writes for WorldNet Daily at www.worldnetdaily.com. We've been talking about several of his books, including The Late Great USA. You can find his books in several different places. You can find them through WorldNet Daily. You can also find them on Amazon.com, as well as other book outlets. For convenience of our listeners, we have all of his books linked at our website of Superior Conservative Values at www.ibbetsonusa.com. And, Jerry, we could talk to you for hours because you are just a treasure trove of information on important topics. But we're kind of winding down in our time. Is there any parting thoughts you might want to give to our Kansas listeners on these important issues?
Well, it's a great opportunity to talk with you, and I've really appreciated it. I'll give you a preview. I've got a new book on Obama coming out in August. It's called The Obama Nation, and I meant that to be a pun. And it's going to be published by Simon & Schuster. It'll be out in early August. It's under embargo. I can't talk about it except to say the title and that it's going to come out. And it's already being previewed on Amazon.com. It will be marketed everywhere. And I think it's going to create another huge controversy. I don't know whether it'll be as large as the controversy created by Unfit for Command, but it'll be the second time in a row that I've gone after a presidential candidate, and I'm sure that will cause quite a stir right there.
Well, you've been at the hub of many controversies. Of course, the Minutemen and border security is a terribly contested subject, and we appreciate truth talkers, people that will go in and do this tremendous amount of research that's involved, whether it's using the Freedom of Information Act or just getting out in the field. And we know that in the border security, you've actually gotten out in the field and done stuff. And so, we appreciate that, but we also appreciate people on this program that share the philosophy that I have of just straight talking, just telling people how it is and letting the chips fall where they may, let the hate mail stack where it needs to, and just going forth. These are important issues. And Jerry Corsi, we want to thank you for coming on the program. We want to invite you to come back anytime you would like.
Great pleasure to be with you, Paul. I'll be happy to come back anytime you ask.
Very, very good. Jerry Corsi, you have a wonderful day.